In today's episode, I'll be giving my reaction, recap, and review to the 13th episode, the last episode, the finale in Survivor's 48th season, titled Only One of Yous Can Win. So let's dive right into Only One of Yous Can Win. Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the dub cast. This episode, honestly, low-key saved the season. I mean, I'm smiling. I feel like that was a good 3 hours of television. I feel like the right person won. If you've been sticking with my reviews throughout the whole season, I was wrong. I was wrong about who won the game. Spoiler alert, Kyle has won the game of Survivor. I think, I think his game is pretty great looking at it on paper. I don't know where he stands in the New Era winnings rankings. He's definitely better than Rachel. He's definitely better than Kenzie. Him and D, I think, is a close competition. Is he better than Jam Jam? I don't know. He's better than Gabler. He's better than Marianne. He's better than Erica. So he's top 3 New Era winner for sure. What a game. Just not what I was expecting at all. Before we get to that, though, let's dive into the beginning of this episode. So we start the episode out with the classic Jeff speech, his little monologues. And honestly, I've said it before. I love these speeches of him just walking at the tribal council set. Although I feel like he gives nothing at these things. Like he's just like, here's our final 5, and here this season was competitive and emotional. I don't know. I always love these little speeches of Jeff talking to us for 2 to 3 minutes, but every season's competitive and emotional. It's fucking Survivor, dude. Um, yeah, I mean, I have so many. I'm about to spew. Probably, I have so many. I gotta take off my sweatshirt. I'm getting hot. I have so many thoughts on this season. Where to begin? It was a bad season. A lot of people didn't like it. I think the post merge was pretty dry, but this finale was genuinely shocking. Like, I'm genuinely shocked that Joe got 3rd place with 1 vote. I'm terrible at reading the edit. I think I'm listening too much to outside influences. I have to go with my own gut. I did have Kyle number 2 throughout most of the post merge, but anyway, so we have the speech from Jeff. Kyle is happy they pulled off the dupe from last episode. Obviously, you have Kyle and Kamilla doing the acting to get Shaheen out of the game. Eva and Joe are still happy to be in the game. They think they made the right move. And then Kamilla says she thinks she deserves an Emmy for her performance in this vote, which, yeah, I mean, Jeff described the season as a season of duos, and this literally came down to 2 duos. Which duo was better? Ultimately, the jury thinks Kyle and Kamilla was a better duo. Yeah, I think Kamilla does deserve an Emmy. I mean, we can talk about her arc later, which is one of the saddest arcs of the new era, I think, especially with the question she got at the after show. So, as usual, I don't think they even moved beaches this final 5. Seemed like they kind of were in the same spot, watching the sunrise. They watch the sunrise every day, which is like, okay, we don't really care when you're not saying much. But didn't seem like they moved beaches, but we get the usual final 5 challenge before the immunity challenge, where the winner or the person who finds this advantage gets an advantage in the immunity challenge. So this one was interesting because it's a spin on the immunity or the immunity idol challenge, hidden immunity idol challenge that was in a bunch of the camps where you have to look at the animals, or decide what the animals are saying, and then put or what letter the animals represent, and then put those letters all into a code. Unlock the code. First person to unlock the code wins the advantage. So I thought there was like a weird aesthetic of them putting the gold little dots on the animals. I thought that looked a little weird, but it is what it is. Not really an interesting challenge, especially because Eva wins. Feels like Eva wins all these types of things. I mean, Eva literally had every advantage in the game. She had this advantage, the knowledge, or not the knowledge. She had the chance to win knowledge without power. She had the immunity idol, and then she had the safety without power. So 4 advantages for Eva throughout the season, and she never gets to go on any rewards or anything. She goes on every fucking reward. So that was our little challenge to start us out. I think, to be honest, we can do away with this challenge, especially because Eva doesn't really. I mean, it did help Eva in the challenge, but it's like we're at the final 5. Do people really need to be getting gimmies before this immunity challenge. I don't think so, but that's just my opinion. What do you guys think of this challenge? I'm actually genuinely curious if people think this challenge matters, but I feel like no one talks about it because it's the final 5 round, and we care about what happens, who wins, who loses, what the final tribal council is, maybe fire making. We don't really talk about the final 5 round. Anyways, I guess I'll talk as fast as I kind of do have a lot of notes for this episode. So we get to the immunity challenge. There's also a reward on the line, pasta, which is pesto, which we don't really see them eating pesto when they do win the challenge, so I don't know what that was all about. Looked more like a, spaghetti type thing with some dried tomatoes. Maybe it was pesto because, you can't really see the sauce. You win pesto and chocolate cake. So Eva's advantage is she's going to have to throw her ball underhanded onto a net, which everyone else had to do to get numbers. She can just place it there. Kind of a weak advantage, but it did end up helping her in the challenge. So one thing I will note on this challenge that I think nobody's talking about online that I've seen yet so far, they all have different numbers. Throwback to a year ago, we're watching Kenzie and Liz in the finale team up to beat Maria, who we'll talk about Maria in a bit. But different numbers for each person. I think that's a direct causation of Kenzie and Liz's impact. So Kenzie did impact the game. I'm giving this more to Liz, though, because she was the one who went back and helped Kenzie out. Liz's impact on Survivor going forward is crazy. So I just want to shout them out for being that. The reason why that each player got different numbers instead of the same numbers like last season or like 2 seasons ago when they could all just, team up against each other. So their impact, love it. Kamilla wins this immunity challenge with a crazy comeback story. She got stuck in a little net, which if I remember on Survivor, I don't want to spin around that net, bro. Like, claustrophobia and being stuck in mud and you have to like turn and turn. I got contacts. I got glasses. I ain't going through no mud pit. Oh, I don't want to do that. But Kamilla was stuck in the mud for a while, literally and figuratively, and then she's able to get herself out. Mitch, who's been a beast at throwing balls all season, of course, is in the lead. He was in the lead for like part of it. Joe gets out to a huge lead, but as they say, the puzzles are the great equalizer. They're all at the last stage. Kamilla just whips the puzzle together. Eva's kind of behind her, but she ran away with it. So I was really impressed with Kamilla's puzzle performance and her performance in this challenge. 2 immunity wins in the season for Kamilla. And she gets to pick one person for the reward, somebody who hasn't been eating a lot and has been talking about pasta forever. We have Mitch, who hadn't gone without a reward for a while. Joe, who, probably goes on one every 3. Kyle, I think, just went last week. And then Eva, who, Eva, she hasn't eaten in a while. She goes I think she went on we need to do a tally of the rewards. I think she went on all of the rewards except for like 1 or 2. And then last week she was like bitching about it when she didn't go on the reward with Kyle. So, I wasn't happy to see that choice. I don't really understand the logic of it, especially since we spend like half a second at the reward challenge with them. I know they were kind of yada-yadaing through most of this finale because it felt like they wanted to get to the final tribal council, which was a good final tribal council. But I don't know. I feel like that reward was kind of not needed. I mean, I know they loved the 2 versus 3 thing. I specifically remember Jam Jam and Carson at the final 5 going to eat pasta. Just like, I think I'm all set with it. I don't know. Do we need a reward challenge this late in the game? I feel like they still don't trust the players to be talking and making enough content for them. They have to add in all these other stuff, and I don't know. I just feel like it was kind of skipped through anyway. We could be seeing this reward being skipped, especially we don't see the chocolate cake. We don't see most of the pesto. It looked just like regular pasta. I did see Kamilla put the sun-dried tomatoes to the side. I respect that. Tomatoes don't belong to anything, but I'm also one of those people who are like, I hate tomatoes, and then I'll eat like ketchup and what's the other thing everyone makes fun of people for eating? Nonetheless, back on topic. So back at camp, Mitch is pushing to get Joe out. Eva wants to get Joe wants to get Mitch out, and Eva just assuming that it will be Mitch. So these are kind of the storylines heading into this, leaving it down to Kyle and Kamilla what they want to do. Apparently they've had a close relationship with Mitch throughout the game as well, so that'd be like voting out their own ally, voting out their own number 3. But at this point, they're more concerned with getting to the 4 with Joe and Eva and just voting Mitch out. And this becomes maybe the least impactful and eventful final 5 round ever. Like at least last year, Maria was fighting. We had who went out at 5. Genevieve was fighting last season. Like I feel like it's always kind of this person who's just makes it to the finish line. Like Lauren Harp in season 44. Final Five in season 45 was crazy. Besides that, I mean, this round is usually Lindsay in 42. You know, Carla in 43. It's always this person who's right there, and then kind of has under-edited and maybe could have won if they make it to the end. Like we think they could possibly win, but by the time it's the finale, it's like these people are not winning and they're going on fifth place, and it's going to be pretty yada yada. I mean, none of these votes besides season 45 have been interesting. Season 41, they voted off Ricard. That one's the least in my memory, but I don't feel like that was like very intriguing. So final five, not the most exciting vote, especially when Kamilla tells Mitch she's going to vote for him. Eva tells Mitch she's going to vote for him. Joe tells Mitch he's going to vote for him. Kyle tells Mitch he's going to vote for him. I'm sitting at home and, I'm not a fan of Mitch. I'm as critical as Mitch as everyone else is out there, although that clip of him doing that is iconic, and that's going to stay in the Survivor lore forever. But, brother, I mean, I'm talking about all the people I just talked about. Lauren Harp was inches away from finding an idol and saving her game. Go look for something. At least, maybe I'm sure he probably did look for something, but not close enough that the Survivor editors chose to show it to us. I mean, they really yada yada through this fifth vote, or this final five vote out. It's kind of the Mitch sad story like we saw with Rachel, except it's not like, just kidding, I have an idol. It's Mitch is actually dead in the water. And then after everyone tells him, I was saying, go find something, brother. No luck, seemingly, that he's even going to go try. And he says the funniest sentence of the season, and I'm excited to hear about Mitch's game in his post-game interviews. He says these 5 words: I should have made a move. That was the most infuriating moment of the whole finale. You don't say, brother. We've been waiting week after week. Every week I've come onto this show and said in the review at some point, Mitch says he's going to make a move this week. I need to make a move. You voted out Chrissy, who would have worked with you. You voted out Star. You voted out Mary. Those were numbers that you could use to flip on the majority alliance. Lesson learned for future Survivor players. When there's more players in the game, no matter what, this is when you flip. This is when you make a move. I mean, granted, it's the new era, so if you make one move, usually in a typical season, you get your head cut off the next week. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure you're not the one spearheading it. But this was the most ironic moment of the season, was Mitch saying, I should have made a move. I mean, granted, you have to give him some credit because in the past couple weeks, he's like, now is the time to make a move. The problem is he never makes the move. And I remember specifically, I think it was during either the Star or the David vote. I think it had to be during the Star vote out. He's like, we don't have the numbers to make the move. You had the numbers when you could have voted out, when you didn't have to vote out Chrissy, who, by the way, Chrissy was juror of the night. We'll obviously get to that, but you had numbers before when you said you were going to make a move and then didn't, and each round you say you're going to make a move, you're running out of numbers, bro. I think Mitch's game, looking back on it, he was apparently this big threat from big early on, survived the middle of it. I'm kind of just eulogizing him at this point because it's obvious he's going to go home in this tribal council. He was a bigger threat that kind of faded. Like he kind of gave me Romeo. Like I was thinking when he was running around the jungle, I was like, is he just Romeo? He's going to place third with, strong pre-merge game, and then kind of didn't even have a really strong pre-merge game. He just had charity relationship. I don't know, man. But, Mitch, if you're watching this, I'm sorry for clowning you, but the editors did you dirty by giving you this line every week to say, and then you're just not doing anything. I know this season was kind of pretty straight and narrow, but I just thought that was hilarious and, kind of sad and kind of made me upset. So, nonetheless, we get to Tribal Council, which I think might have been the shortest Tribal Council ever in history. I'd like the numbers on that one as well. Really, 3 questions were asked. And then Eva plays her idol. Yay. It's like the Sue play of the idol, which, Eva gets a lot more respect at Final Tribal. I thought for a moment there, I'm always tricked by the Final Tribal because they do a really good job editing it. I'm like, is Eva going to win this game? But Eva plays the idol. No one was even thinking about voting for her anyway because everyone knew she already had it. So I guess that's a pretty nice play to be safe at 5 no matter what. And Mitch is voted out 4-1. He throws his vote onto Kyle, which maybe is interesting looking at the result of the season now. He wanted to get Joe out, but I don't know. Kamilla had immunity. I don't know why he voted for Kyle. Maybe he can explain that tomorrow. But Mitch leaves the game 4-1. Pretty sad. It's the eulogy tribals are pretty sad, especially when they're actually going home, not like the Rachel um, or the Kamilla one from earlier this season, like when they fake like they're going home. Mitch was actually going home, so it was pretty sad. I agree with the editors. We didn't really need to see that much, but it was pretty short of a tribal council. So Kamilla. Now we're back at the beach. Final four is Kamilla, Kyle, Joe, and Eva. Kamilla tells Kyle right ahead of the immunity challenge that if she wins the immunity challenge, she's putting him in fire against Joe because her and Kyle will split jury votes. Now, I just saw a very good point. I've been all over X during the after show because the after show sucks. That the this was a bad idea by Kamilla because her telling Kyle this gave him the green light to put her into fire. And I really like that idea. It might have been Dolan Ross who tweeted that. It was one of those kind of guys. So all props to them. Whoever tweeted it, you know who you are. I'm not taking your idea. I just want to discuss it. I think that's actually a really good point because when she tells him this now, Kyle's been this emotional player all season. His what's the word I'm looking for? Resistance, hesitation to vote out Joe because of their close relationship, his hesitation to do anything against Kamilla. But now when she tells him to his face, I'm going to put you in fire, that gives him the green light to put her in fire later on. So I thought that was a really good point made by that person on X, and I agree with it. I think this was a mistake by Kamilla, maybe the only mistake she made in the game, to be honest. Felt like for early on, Kamilla before this round was getting a lot of, I'm a great liar, and I could see the storyline brewing. A lot of people had Kamilla as the winner of the season. I always had her number 3 coming into this finale, but it was a good story. We'll get to that in a second. So everyone's kind of making their plans to the final four. Granted, this is Survivor 48. Everyone's pretty open about it. There's not a lot of intrigue. So obviously, Eva will take Joe to the final 3 with her. Joe will take Eva with him to the final 3. So they're locked in as a duo. And Kyle swears in his life that he will take Joe to the final 3, which I thought was a red herring when that was announced at Tribal Council. Nonetheless, interesting decision from Kyle, and it's hard to really tell who would have won what when we're seeing the perceptions of the jury. We don't really know who would have voted for who. I mean, at the time, most of the, even up till like halfway through Final Tribal Council, I was thinking Joe was going to win. Now that was because of things outside the game, people on Twitter and Edgic and YouTube and streaming and stuff. I've been brainwashed. I need to reset and do my own locked in, research here for these seasons because I was on Rachel last season. Kenzie was obvious as well. I think Kyle wasn't that obvious. Kyle was, to me, coming into this finale, I thought Kyle was getting the Charlie. He was getting the Sam. These last couple seasons, this guy who makes it really close and finishes in second, but ultimately is not good enough. He had a crazy amount of confessionals, might be the most amount of confessionals for a New Era winner. And I think what they did with Kyle that kind of snuck it in there to dissuade a lot of people from thinking he was winning the game was revealing his story later on. We don't get the stuff about him being in jail till the David boot. We don't get the stuff about there was something else. His family. He wasn't. That family episode threw me for a trip when Joe, Shaheen, Kamilla, and Kyle all bonded, and Kyle didn't get a speaking role in that little scene. But we can't. I think moving forward, as one of the leaders of the Edgic community, we can't be nitpicking on these scenes. I thought Joe was winning the game because they didn't show any negativity during that wool over the eyes idol play on Thomas. Wrong. So we can't keep harping on these same things. We have to come into every episode fresh. So that's my advice to Edgic people out there. We made a big mistakes this season. Anyway, I don't know how I got to here talking about the final 4. So Kyle swears in his life he's going to take Joe. Obviously, I think looking back on that relationship, it was more just of a close friendship that Kyle was like, fuck it, I'll go against you. And, a lot of people, there wasn't a lot of high love for Joe out there. There was a lot of people talking about the post-season press wasn't great on Joe. When you look at it, the clues were there that Joe probably wasn't going to win this game. And, Joe reminds me of Carolyn from season 44, this character that they built up, but doesn't get the respect from the jury when he did play what we seem to see as a dominating game. I mean, Carolyn didn't play a dominating game, but she played an interesting game. I'm trying to think of other no vote finalists who played, a good game. Sue, from last season. I can't even remember who got third on season 46. Well, I can't remember. Kyle, Ben. Ben didn't really, move the needle. Jake, what didn't do much. It's more Carolyn. It's more Carolyn. Owen was kind of a disaster. Romeo was kind of a disaster. Xander. Maybe it's like a Xander Carolyn type game from Joe, just more to the extreme. I mean, he was getting a crazy at it, and maybe that's just because they're building him up for a potential return on season 50. I don't know. People have floated that idea out there. I wouldn't mind to see Joe back, although I think looking at what's speculated for the Survivor 50 cast, which I don't want to make this video all about 50, it looks like that's going to be most of the same archetype as Joe, so I don't know how he gets on there, but we'll see what happens with Survivor 50 in a week at 7 a.m. And I'll be on a cruise and won't be able to witness it. Hopefully they have CBS on Royal Caribbean. Por favor. Nonetheless, back to the fire. So I basically explained all the scenarios. Kamilla, I don't know specifically who she would take. Probably Eva to the final. You never know, though. It could have been Joe, but she basically told Kyle he's going into fire. Probably she would put Joe against Kyle. So we get to the immunity challenge. One of my favorite immunity challenges is Samotion for the finale. It just feels intense, epic. I feel like either I would cook at Samotion or I would be horrible at it, and there's really, no in between. And they said tonight, I was thinking in my head, Jeff placed this perfectly. I was like, when they got to that fourth ball, I was like, how many balls have they ever put in there all time? What's the highest amount? Only 5. So this isn't a challenge that goes on forever. I'm trying to remember the season that did have Samotion. I remember 46 we didn't have Samotion. I feel like 45 we didn't have Samotion. 44 I think was Samotion. I think it's 44, 42, 48, and 40 were the last of the couple in the 40s of the seasons that had Samotion. I believe this was also a vote for season 50. I think I voted for Samotion. I don't know. I just love Samotion. I think we need these staple challenges, like, of course, everyone's like Hand on a Heart Idol. That'd be great, but they're not. They have 26 days. They have a schedule. They're not putting people out there for 12 hours anymore. So that's unfortunate, but I voted for Samotion. Hopefully it's back. I love Samotion. Anyways, Eva is out first, and she takes it pretty hard. Is crying a lot. I don't know if she thought this challenge was up her alley, as they're kind of on the map before. That it was kind of up to they think any of them could have really won this. It could have been any of them that won this challenge. So I'm not sure if there was really a favorite. Samotion's kind of an equalizer. So after Eva goes out, Kamilla goes out, and then Joe goes out. Kyle wins. I did call this. You can ask my mom. I said I think Kyle's going to win this Samotion challenge. Kyle won the Samotion challenge. So, little W in the book. I didn't get the winner of the season, but I did predict the winner of the Final Four Immunity Challenge. So Kyle back at camp, he's going to be pretty easy about it. He's going to do what he said he was going to do. He's going to take Joe to the final 3. I wrote in my notes, big mistake, ? Like Q said, big mistake. No, I don't. It wasn't a mistake, obviously. It wasn't a mistake because Eva got the second most votes and Kamilla would have won the whole game. So Kyle makes the right move again. I mean, this whole season went pretty well for Kyle. Like, I don't know what he could have done better. Maybe, like, if he goes to any iteration of the final with Kamilla, he's losing. So good decision by Kyle. He picked the person who got the least amount of jury votes and would have got the least amount of jury votes to go to the final 3 with him. And he does tell Eva that she is going into the fire challenge. Obviously, he was already kind of given the blessing by Kamilla to put her in because she told him to his face that he's going in. So I thought, that was interesting out of their relationship to end. Kind of a Tony Sarah moment, but not like forced. Like they were the ones who actually chose to do this. So I thought that really a high amount of respect for both Kyle and Kamilla because they're both gaming. If they're like, one of us is in there, we're winning. So it was nice to see them both support each other. And Kamilla did have a nice confessional saying, like, I never thought I'd be rooting for somebody else to win the game with me, like, but that's just how I'm playing. And I'm dying to get out on that beach, man, where these relationships come so deep that you don't play the game, you're going out there to play. Right now, I'm just thinking, like, none of these people matter to me. I'll vote them out, But even my one org I played, I got too emotionally connected, and I was at the final 10, and I was like, I don't even know who the fuck I would vote out next because I like all these people. So I got to work on that. I got to work on my killer instinct if I ever make it out there. Nonetheless, so the jury gave like a false... Okay, never mind. There's something else before we get to here. So obviously the preparations take place as a typical fire-making season does. The 2 people in this case scenario who have been told they're going in to the fire-making challenges. Eva is struggling to make her fire, and then Kyle, once he hears her kind of crying out, is questioning the morality of it. I thought he was like, I'm going to put in you, Joe. Like, he was kind of trying to frame it so Joe would be like, I'm going to step up and do it, which Joe does eventually offer to do it, to Eva, though, not in front of Kyle. But he was saying to send himself into fire against Kamilla. we have to stop doing this, the send yourself in thing, and the like fire matters. The fire in Kenzie's eye, though, right, Maria? No, I don't think we should merit that much into the fire making challenge. And if we get the vote at season 50, which I did vote for as well, no more fire making challenge. Final four vote. Like, who goes in this case scenario? You know, it's Joe and Eva deciding who goes between Kamilla and Kyle. I think that'd be really interesting. Although it probably would just be Kamilla also. But bring back the final four vote. We don't need the fire making challenge. Nonetheless, Kyle is potentially thinking about going in himself. Didn't seem like it was too serious of an idea, but he was pondering it a bit. So Joe is going to make his way over to Eva and asks her to let him do it, and she doesn't do it at all. She refuses it. A lot of people called this out on podcasts, and I respect that. You know, I didn't give it a too deep of a prediction for the finale, but people were saying, you know, if Joe offers to sacrifice his game for Eva, would she let him do it? And she would say no. I respect for Eva. She's like, I want to do this myself. This is my shit. I'm going to do it. And so Joe helps her make the fire before the fire making challenge, you know, helps her out. Another nice moment between them two. So yeah, coming into the fire challenge, I definitely thought for sure that Eva would win just for the narrative of the season. Like, I didn't see Kyle and Kamilla sitting next to each other and splitting votes. Didn't see the narrative on Kamilla really winning. So we get to the thing. Kyle does to the challenge. Kyle says what he promised. He's going to take Joe with him, setting Kamilla and Eva against each other. And this is where we got the jury red herring. Like, the jury was shocked that he was taking Joe with him. Maybe Joe was just like a false threat in most of these people's minds, and they talk about it and they're like, what did Joe actually do? Like, he got the wool pulled over his eyes by Kyle and Kamilla. Maybe that perspective probably changed when Kamilla went there and, you know, fed the jury with information about her and Kyle's game. So maybe that's the moment it switched, but the jury looked like genuinely shocked. I mean, it seemed like from David's perspective, he was acting most of the tribal councils. But they did seem shocked that Kyle would take Joe to the final three. So we have one of the least interesting fire-making challenges. Eva, you know, builds a decent fire. It goes down a little bit with the wind, which we're back to my person, Teeny. I know they've gone through a transition in the past year, so I'm going to respect that. We can't let wind dictate a person's game, you know. I don't think Teeny would have won at Final Tribal Council, but that's an unfair chance to sit in that one seat, get the wind. Eva sat in the wind seat, almost had her fire go out, so that was bullshit. This game shouldn't be depending on the wind for somebody to either go to the final three or lose the game. Like, this is so fucking stupid. And, you know, in that case, I am glad Eva won this, because if the wind put her fire out and then Kamilla cooks a big fire, like, that's BS. Come on, man. End the fire making challenge, Jeff. So Eva smokes Kamilla. I mean, Kamilla had one spark for a couple seconds, never even really got close, never really got a flame. And then, you know, we get the classic, I hate how they make you sit back down. You should just, like, get up and then say a couple words. Like, if I was the final four fire making loser, I'd feel so sad. I mean, I remember Liz was, like, sad there. Teeny was sad there. It's really a sad spot to have to go back and sit down and answer Jeff's question about, like, how emotional you are. Nonetheless, Kamilla does sit down and take responsibility, whatever, you know, I lost the game, you know, pretty sad performance. I didn't like her talking to herself. You know, it seemed like that was kind of a negative energy, and Jeff was like, you were so positive. She was getting blown out, so she was just being like a respectful competitor. Nonetheless, I thought it was funny how she said GG's on the way out. You know, our generation's growing up, guys. We're getting old. So there's that. Back at camp, a boat's coming to bring breakfast, which I'm not sure if that's been a thing in the past, of a boat coming to bring breakfast, but this is one of my favorite new segments they've done since around season 43, of the jury talking to each of the people's games. We get to hear from our people who were voted out in the last couple of weeks that we haven't heard from in a bit. So they're eating breakfast, and then the jury gets into talking about each of them. So we start off with Kyle. Shaheen talks about Kyle being strategic. Kamilla talks about Kyle being a good liar and strategist, just like herself. And then Mitch talks about him using relationships, and he just needs to own his game tonight, and he'll do well. So it's hard to read off these because they try and prep everybody up. So I thought that was interesting. But all three of those people didn't end up voting for Kyle, so there's something there. with Eva. Mary talks about Eva wholeheartedly trusting people, which she's never seen done before. Sometimes it was the wrong people, but she is courageous. Cedric says she's a physical beast, and then Kamilla says she's one of the smartest people out here. So Mary did end up voting for Eva. Cedric and Kamilla do not end up voting for Eva, so I thought that was an interesting choice there. Eva brings up something that I didn't even know she was hiding throughout the game, that she is a student at Brown, Rhode Island Pride. So, I've been rooting for Eva throughout the season. Nonetheless, she is a student at Brown and does research for the Navy. And then Kyle tells them that he's a lawyer. I thought Kyle was going to kind of keep the lawyer thing until after the post game, or until the after show, but he didn't do that. He just reveals it here, then he reveals it at Final Tribal Council. I thought Joe was funny in the situation of him just saying he's still a fire captain. So that was a funny back and forth. He does it again at Final Tribal Council. So with Joe, we have Chrissy talking about him, saying he's a stand-up guy. David says he was a beast in the challenges. He broke a lot of promises. He's going to have to own it tonight, which I kind of thought that Joe just might get like the Mike Turner treatment of not owning his game, not owning the deceptions he did. But it didn't really seem like it went that way, which is Joe didn't talk much at Final Tribal Council. And then Star just says he dominated the game, so none of those people end up voting for Joe. So maybe, a little red herring there. Nonetheless, we get to one of my favorite segments of any season of Survivor, the Final Tribal Council. Cedric gets the first question. I was happy to hear from Cedric. I don't know. I like Cedric. I didn't like Jeff just picking random people to ask questions. If you want to do that, do the classic jury format where they stand in front of them. Like, I don't know. After this season, I'm like, let's actually do this old school Survivor thing, because this old school sort of cast in the new era just seemed like, let's go back to what we used to have, man. The new era was fun, but we can go back to what we liked before. Like, you're getting people into the it's a whole thing. I know we're not going to get anything, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it. I didn't like Jeff dictating on who gets to answer that. I feel like, or ask questions. Has he ever done that? Like, I don't know. They do kind of show one of each person asking the questions. I do think the jury did a great job. I think each of the finalists did a great job as well. So David is still just stone-faced throughout. I wrote that's so funny. Him just pretending to be pissed. I didn't like the bit at the end. I thought he was just actually bitter. But none of that ends up mattering after he says something later on. Chrissy clocks. Chrissy was juror of the year, bro. Get Chrissy on a trial jury. Like, she was going crazy with it. She was like, only one of yous can win, which she's talking about the Joe and Eva duo. I think, a lot of people kind of saw through that at the end. Eva reveals the safety without power. Felt like a pretty powerful moment there, with a lot of jurors being shocked by that. Kyle reveals he has been incarcerated and became a lawyer. And Eva also chimes in with, want to know what I do, which I thought was pretty cringy. I saw a funny tweet about that. But she reveals her current studies as a student at Brown. Kamilla, when the Shaheen moves comes up, this feels like the crowning moment. I didn't say I foresaw this because I had Joe winning, but I kind of foresaw this being a big moment at Tribal Council, especially when it's not mentioned until later on. Kamilla, like, someone else is asking somebody about the Shaheen vote, or Eva's speaking about the Shaheen vote, and then Camilla's like, I got you, to Kyle. It's a really powerful duo there, shining through, and even in the Final Tribal Council. And Shaheen even speaks ahead of Kamilla. And even after that, she's like, good words, guys. Kyle, what's your perspective on this? And then Kyle gets to slam dunk that one. So nice setup from Kamilla to Kyle there. Good job, and he gets to take the credit for it. Does a good job. Obviously, he's a lawyer himself, so he knows how to speak to a jury. Actually, I don't know if he knows how to speak to a jury. According to Charlie, lawyers don't always know, or according to Charlie on Rob Has a Podcast, some lawyers don't deal with juries. So I don't know what kind of lawyer Kyle is, but maybe his experience speaking to a jury. So David gives a knock-knock joke, which was so... If you rewatch this Final Tribal Council and you just, like, it felt like a minute that it just went silent. I thought that was funny editing by the Survivor editing team, where David's like, knock, knock, and then nobody says anything for a couple minutes, and then he ends the stone face, just says he was just kidding. He's like, finally got to chill and relax, you guys. I thought that was a weird moment. He could have at least played it off a little bit, but I feel like he did go a little far with it. So I don't know. I thought that was funny though from David. And then it pretty much wraps up here with Eva says Maria went out there and won a bunch of challenges. She was an old woman. I just thought that was hilarious. And we have a response from Maria Gonzalez, who's locked in on the X tonight. Let me see. Let me pull this up. So, tweet from Dr. Maria S. Gonzalez at 10:19 p.m. tonight. She says, "I'm sorry, an old woman? Question mark. How many immunities did you win?" I retweeted it. Like, I don't fuck with Maria because she didn't vote for Charlie. I thought that was fucked up, but I thought that tweet was hilarious. Um, so Maria catching strays. Who else was? I mean, I feel like a couple people caught strays. That was a crazy one from Eva though. I'm ready to see Eva versus Maria captain season 52. Maria's an old woman. You know, if she's old, fuck, we're getting up there in age. I thought that was hilarious. So I really thought after Final Chopper Council that any of these people could win. I thought they all gave a great performance. Not much content from Joe, to be honest. I thought, coming into this, I still was thinking Joe was going to pull this off. Doesn't answer a lot of questions. It felt like he was that third finalist, looking at the whole Final Tribal Council and as a whole. So maybe, I should have caught on to the clues then. I was standing up. I was ready for this reading of the votes. So they show us 3 votes, which is the first time in the new era all 3 people received votes because let me just run it through in my head real quick. I'll do math with you guys. We can do it together. So season 41, Xander didn't get any votes. Season 42, Romeo didn't get any votes. Season 43, Owen didn't get any votes. Season 44, Carolyn didn't get any votes. Season 45, Jake didn't get any votes. Season 46, Ben didn't get any votes. Season 47, Sue didn't get any votes. Did Sue get votes? I don't think Sue got any votes. So yeah, first time in the new era that all 3 people were voted for. I thought that was cool. So Cedric is voting for Joe. Makes sense. I thought that Cedric could be a Joe vote. Cedric was kind of someone that's up in the air. Mayor Ponderosa, he could have gone anywhere. Mary and Star, or no, getting ahead of myself. Mary votes for Eva. Kamilla votes for Kyle. Obviously, Camilla's going to vote for Kyle. I thought the Mary vote for Eva was pretty interesting, pretty surprising out of her. Although, I could see her being like anti-man and anti-like challenge beast, that kind of game. So that's 3 votes all individually there. I was genuinely shocked when we get the vote reveal. Kyle wins in a 5-2-1 vote. Thought for sure it was still going to be Joe. Well, not for sure. I was kind of doubting myself after that final tribal council. But Eva getting second over Joe is genuinely mind-blowing to me. I thought Eva for sure was going to get third. I had Eva on my fantasy team, so I'm not complaining, although I'm definitely didn't win because someone else had Joe and Kyle. But Eva I thought was pretty shocking as a second place, but she killed it at Final Tribal Council. She had her Marianne moment with the knowledge is power. She had a couple other moments that I thought were really interesting and powerful of her own volition. And the picture they all painted at Tribal Council I thought was pretty good of their own game. So ultimately, it just came down to which games each juror preferred. So Cedric voted for Joe, Mary and Star voted for Eva, and then everyone else voted for Kyle. 5-2-1 vote. That's pretty interesting, right? So good final Tribal Council by everyone. Honestly, that saved a lot of the season for me. So that was great to see that. The after show, I had 3 main points from this. So Kamilla would have won the game and every vote according to Star, if she did make it to the final tribal council. I think that's pretty interesting. A lot of people were saying Kamilla would win. She's the fallen angel of the season. We got to bring Kamilla back. Maybe not for 50. Obviously, 50's flying out in a week. But I don't know. Kamilla got to come back. She was robbed. Besides that, Jeff and David drink milk together, which I guess if you're masculine, you drink like this. I guess, brother. Didn't know that. And if you drink like this, you're feminine. I don't know. And I probably just got a gift made of that. I'm sorry. Tell the people out there I love. Decent-ish after show. I feel like the after show has really been an afterthought the last couple of years, but we had some fun moments of Joe and Shaheen explaining the Eva sneak out when they were talking to each other. Everyone kind of got a moment to speak, so that was nice from everyone to hear. Season 49, another lackluster trailer in my opinion. It does look like it could be a good season. I actually love the 2-minute previews for the season that keep me going. I still go back to the season 40 Winners at War, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking of the season 51 when next in the fall we're going to be watching season 50 preview. Let's go, man. But I thought this preview was pretty sad with like it being underwater half the time. We would get to hear from like 6 people, but I know they just wrapped up filming the other day, so I'm not gonna yada yada too much through it. But Hopefully another great season of Survivor. Could be a big forgotten one like season 39 when you had season 40 coming. Hopefully there's not, scandals like season 39. But I'm still going to be here watching season 49, so I'm excited for it. Season 48, where does it rank in the new era? Might be dead last. Pre-merge is pretty good. Finale was pretty good. Besides that, everything in between was pretty bad. Is it better? See, I have high regards for season 44 because I was a senior in college, about to graduate. But looking back on it, I think this is better than season 44. Had better moments. Is it better than 43? Yes, I'll think it's also better than 43. So I think ultimately it falls below everything else. I think I got 46 1. Like 46 was just crazy. There is a terrible 3-episode stretch. I don't care. I have it number 1 now. I mean, we were doing war every week with season 46. So many good characters. Season 46 is 1. Season 45 is 2. Season 47 is 3. And then season 42 is 4. Season 41 is 5. Season 48 is 6. Season 44 is 7. And season 43 is 8 of the new era. So there's new era ranking right there. Kyle, I mentioned before, I'd have to do a little bit of a deeper thinking about his analysis, but I think he's played at least the top 3 game of the new era, joining D and other person that I can't remember. Erica? Did I say Erica? Marianne, no. Gabler, no. Oh, Jam Jam. So Jam Jam, I think Jam Jam's game's a lot shakier. Like Kyle never was at risk of going home. So I think Kyle's top 2. It's him or D. D has a lot of risk at the final. Kyle, is it crazy to say one of the best or the best winner of the new era? I respect game, brother. I think he's top 2, him or D. I'd have to think about that a little bit further, but that's where I'm headed at right now. So following this video, Survivor content went pretty long in this finale. A lot of stuff in here to jam pack and unpack. We'll be doing a tier list of characters. I did it for season 47 and 46. We'll do that as a separate video. Season 48 tier list of each characters. Hopefully that'll come out this weekend. Thank you guys so much for being here. Unfortunately, I'm going to be on a cruise, I mentioned before, for the season 50 cast reveal, but maybe I'll pull a guest so we can go through that right when I get back. That'd be great. I'm so excited for season 50, the reveal. I've been in the weeds and in the rumors, listening and hearing, and as long as Q makes it on, we're good. Amanda Kimmel, a lot of hype for her today on the Twitter streets, but I'm excited for the future of Survivor. Season 50, we're going to go all out. I'm going to have to wrangle some people, get some guests in here. We're going to have crazy shit to talk about. So Survivor content keeps flowing. TV shows, got reviews coming out next week as well while I'm on vacation. Movies, we do everything here. Sports, it's all happening on the Dubcast. So please subscribe, please like, please comment. Dislike if you want to, if you didn't like this video. So as always, I'll leave y'all with that. Be easy, y'all.